love is enough. God's love is enough. God's love is enough. God's love is enough.
All right. God's love is enough. I would go on and venture to say that God's love is more than enough. Why? Because God's love is endless. It's endless love. And so that means that you are, and I, and all humanity, and all that God has created is an endless love. Wow. How blessed we are. How beyond measure are we blessed to be sitting here having awareness, having a conscious awareness of how blessed we are, having a conscious awareness of our oneness with reality, our oneness with God, our oneness with truth, having a conscious awareness that we remain as God created us. And we have need of nothing. And as we continue to embark on these workbook lessons from out of A Course in Miracles, we have the experience of expanding our consciousness, or expanded consciousness, where we continue to engage in the infinite self, in the infinite intelligence that we are part of. How blessed we are. How loved we are. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, beloved. Depending on when you are listening to this session. And my name is Oliver Blue, and it has not changed. My name remained as I was given. My nature remained as I was given. My reality remained as it was given or extended or created. And I am delighted to be here. And I'm delighted that you are here. Wow, this has been such a rich season. The last 14, 15 lessons where we've really gotten into some deep waters. And the water only gets deeper. It's like we have fallen into this ocean of love that has no depth, that has no boundaries. The ocean of awareness, the ocean of God consciousness. It's where we're finding ourselves to be. And so, coming off the last lesson 135, where we spent extensive time, 3 whole lessons, in bringing an understanding to what the Course calls defense, and concluded that it is in our defenselessness, the fact that there is no need for defense. It is in that state of being, that state of mind, that state of awareness, that we find that all is well. No need for And so we're going to move over to lesson 136 today out of A Course in Miracles. And it somewhat is a continuation of the need of understanding the role that defenses play in keeping us from the experience of the love that we share. Defenses are like blocks that keep us from the awareness that we are love, from the awareness of love presence. And so we build these fences. We design these defenses to keep us from ourselves. It's almost like, we're afraid of our reality. And so we build fences or defenses to keep our reality at bay. Excuse me. Might need a little water. And we find out that these defenses or fences are built within our minds, within the way we think, within our self-concept of ourselves. We build these fences or have the sense of a need of defense out of a fear of ourselves. We've discovered that in the last lesson, but we have also concluded that it is the letting down of these fences it is the releasing of ideas that are man-made and was designed to keep the fences up. It mentioned one defense that a lot of us need to learn, and that is sacrifice. We have been so highly trained that sacrifices are necessary. It's all in our culture, it's all in our politics, it's in our religion, it's in the false nature of humanity that sacrifice is a vital part of our existence, a needful part. But we have found out from lesson 135 that there is no need for sacrifice. Sacrifice is only an indication that we fear or we're still rejecting our innocence. And that we take sacrifice because fear of our innocence is fear of an illusion. And then we take another illusion, sacrifice, to try to what? To try to make good. And so we're taking an illusion to resolve an illusion, and we're doing doubly. It said the Course said that we're doubly deceived. Just think about how much the word sacrifice or that concept of sacrifice is used throughout our culture as a absolute must. And it's not. It's an absolute unnecessary concept. It comes out of that concept of separation. We have done something wrong and we need to appease God with something. That's where the concept of sacrifice comes from. And it is but a defense against the truth. It's but a block to the awareness of love present. It's a block to the awareness of your innocence. It's a block to the awareness of your oneness. And so I know that is startling to some of us. I know that is absurd, maybe sounding to some of us, but it's the truth. It's the truth that needs no defense, needs no sacrifice. There's no more need for sacrifice. And it all came out of a old, ancient idea of trying to appease God by taking an innocent animal and sacrificing an innocent animal to atone for a wrong that never occurred. Separation has never occurred. So, I mean, you probably even got it in your vocabulary. You probably got it in your concept of yourself that you've sacrificed your life, you've sacrificed your belongings and your time and your energy and your resources to help someone else. And the reward for that is, some, short-term peace of mind. But in reality, you have not sacrificed anything. Sacrifice denotes a loss. And in God, there is no loss. Jesus said, all that you've given to me, I have lost but none. So I know it's a strong built-in concept, but it is not a godly concept. Again, it came from an ancient ritual. And even we took that whole concept and put it into the story of Jesus as it is true, death, burial, and resurrection. That the whole concept that Jesus was a lamb slain as a sacrifice for humanity. That's the biggest story we have used to indoctrinate humanity with the idea of sacrifice. God did not require sacrifice. God did not require Jesus' death. God doesn't require anybody's death. Death is not a part of God's constitution. It doesn't exist. Jesus made a decision of what he was going to do with his life. And he chose to use his life to demonstrate that what death is not real. And that no man can really take life. But he laid his body down and then reappeared in another form to prove that what death is not real. That's what that was all about. Had nothing to do with the sacrificial lamb, as we've been taught. I know this is startling, and I know this is different, and I know this is even unbelievable to most, because our whole life been built on the concept of sacrifice. But I'm trying to help you to heal your mind of the fear and the terror and the anguish and the anxiety that has built, that you have experienced because you built your life around, because we built our life around erroneous thinking. We built our life around the idea of separation. And out of that idea of separation, we built an entire world, which includes time and form, include bodies and, physical things. All of that is a defense against the truth. The world was created as a defense, as a weapon, as an attack on the truth. Like the Course says, the world was created as an attack on God. That means that your physical incarnation was created as an attack on God, or made as an attack on God. You being here in form with a birth and a death date, that's an attack on life. That's an attack on reality. Why? Because that teaches you, that falsity teaches you that there's a beginning and there is an end. And God said in him that what we live, move, and have our being, and there is no beginning and end in God. That means that there is no beginning and end in you. But the ego uses this whole concept of sacrifice, birth, death, to convince you that there is death, that truth is not true, that God is not eternal. It conjures up fear. In other words, even in the Bible, it says that the last enemy to be what dispelled is what? Death. Why? Because it's the major illusion. It is the major illusion, that death is real. And so if death is real, that means what? God is not real. Why? Because death reigns. And so it's so important right now where we are in this study, because these are the deep-seated ideas that causes us to think that there needs to be a defense, that we need to build these fences, that we need to build these blocks around us to protect us, to prolong us, to preserve us. And so the focus turns from the truth and it turns to the illusion. And it's in our allegiance to the illusions that we begin to experience the pain and the suffering, that we allow the mind that is afraid to attack the body, which the body is neutral. The body will naturally do what it's supposed to do. If our thinking was in alignment with the truth. But when our thinking gets off course, it generally shows up in the body. And we know what happens with the mind when things shows up in the body, when there's a sensation or pain or this malfunction or dysfunction in the body, or disease or sickness, however they want to describe it, then it affects even more our mind to begin to think in a way that is not in alignment with the truth. And so the body's basically sends a signal that our thinking is a little off, and that what really needs healing is the mind and not the body. And that is not to say that we should not consider, the what has been made naturally for us to aid in the management of pain. It's not to say that we're not to use medicine or to use doctors. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying here is the ultimate medicine, or the ultimate doctor, or the ultimate healer is our mind. When the mind is healed, everything's healed. And so the focus should be on what we're doing here as we move on this 136th day through A Course in Miracle workbooks. The focus should be on what? On the healing of the mind. I know this whole the whole course that Jesus created is called A Course in Miracles, but really it's a course in healing. To be transformed is to be healed, and not necessarily physically healed, but mentally healed. Because in truth, the body is absolutely neutral. The body has no choice. The mind does. And when the mind chooses reality, the body expresses that. It becomes a healthy, as it said in the last session, the body becomes a healthy, serviceable instrument, which I call the course calls a communication device. It becomes a healthy communication device that we're now used to express the light of the world that we are. And we don't give it aims or purposes or motives that it cannot handle. Like what? Our identity. And so it's a course in healing. All that we're doing is about the healing of the mind. All that we're doing is about embracing that which is real, which cannot be threatened. Threat only comes in a mind that believes that it's been separate. Threat can only come to a mind. I made a note here. Threat can only come to a mind that harbors attack thoughts, that we're under attack, or that we harbor thoughts to attack others. Threat can only come to a mind that's holding judgments, against you oneself and against other. Well, we judge ourselves and judge others unrighteous or undeserving or unequal. Threat comes to a mind that holds those kinds of judgments. And finally, threat comes to a mind that plans out of fear, a mind that will plan against uncertainties in the future. We worry about not having enough. We worry about our status. We worry about death. We worry about our fears. And so we plan against that. Threat comes to a mind that does that. Because in doing that, we're giving what? The body our identification. When we do that, we're saying to the body that we are a body, and that's our true identification. And so in that, eventually, the body is attacked. Why? Because the mind is sick in that moment to think that. And so it is the mind that needs healed, and the mind that needs healing. And so in this season that we're in here, it's like the course is turning, or Jesus is turning us to make this distinction between what is the body and what the body's proper function is, what is the mind and what the mind's proper function is. Because we're neither. Who we are is neither. But they both play a role, or an appropriate role, now that we find ourselves here. And so there's this moment here where we're making that distinction between the body and the mind in the role for the proper functioning. And so today we're going to look at the ideas about sickness. Today's lesson is, and the idea for today is that sickness is a defense against the truth. Remember in the previous lesson, we said that if I defend myself, I am attacked. And establish the fact that when we misrepresent our true identity as body identity, there's this sense of threat. That's this sense of attack, and that we seek to build defenses against the attack, only to find out that that's all in our thinking. And now we're saying here that sickness, when you hear the word sickness, what do we think about? The dysfunction. The first thing come to mind is the dysfunction of the body, or the malfunction of the body, or the dis-ease of the body. But I think the course is going to really point us to what sickness really is, because that's what we naturally think when we hear the word sickness. We think about the body, because again, thinking that we are the body. But in reality, when the course talks about sickness, the course talks about sickness where it really is. And sickness is not in the body. The body is neutral. The body really knows nothing of sickness. It is the mind. It is the mind that It is the mind that engages in false belief. So it is the mind that is really sick. It's the mind that needs healing, and not the mind of God or the mind of Christ, but it's the mind that we made out of a belief in separation, that the mind split into two parts, or that we split or separate from God. And so that part that's separated from God created a mind of its own, which we call the ego. And it's that mind that is believing that it's an individual separated self. In that thought, in and of itself, it's what we call a dysfunction or dis-ease, or we call it sickness. So when we look at the idea for the day that sickness is a defense against the truth, we want to focus our attention on what is the what is the source of the sickness, which is not the body, but it would have to be what? The mind that thought it up. We would have to we want to look excuse me, we want to look at the cause. And from a course perspective, the cause of sickness is not in the body. The body is not cause. It's not a causation. The body is an effect. And so the mind sickness is a cause that shows up where? In the body. So the body sickness is an effect. So the mind is a cause. The body is the effect. So we don't want to deal with effects. Side effects, front effects, back effects, no effects. We don't want to deal with effects. We want to deal with the root, and the root is the cause, and the cause is the mind. And so the focus here again is on what? Be not conformed to this world, but be ye what? Transformed by the renewing of the mind. That's why Jesus said, through Paul, through Revelation, he said, let this mind be in you. What mind is he talking about? He's talking about the fact that there's a false mind called the ego. He said, but don't let that mind be in you. He said, let this mind be in you. Which mind? So it's a decision to be made. Which mind is that? The mind of Christ. He said, let this mind be in you, in Philippians 2:5, that was also in Christ. So Christ made a decision, or Jesus made a decision to engage the mind, which is the thoughts of God. He made a decision. So there's a decision to be made. So Jesus made a decision to allow the mind of God, or the thoughts of God, to be in him. He said it through Paul in Philippians 2:5, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ. And what was that mind? Go ahead and read the second part, which is the part that we are afraid of. When I say we are afraid of, it's the part that we really reject. He said he's not talking about us. He's talking about Jesus. No, he's talking about all of us. He says, who in the form of man, or in the bodily form. When Jesus was in a bodily form, this is what Jesus did. He said, in the form of man, or in the form of God. In other words, when he was in the form of man, he was still in the form of God, because the body was not him. It was the mind that he operated. It's the mind that he allowed to be in him. He says, being in the form of God, he thought it not robbery to be equal with God. That is the mind of Christ. That is the mind that Jesus, Paul, and the Spirit of truth is employing us to embrace as our own mind, because it is the only true mind. He said that we have equality with God Almighty. And we put up a defense against that by saying what? No, Jesus is the only perfect man. Jesus is the Son of God. We're just, sinners saved by grace, and all that garbage that we have taken on to ourselves. No. Until we embrace that reality, until we embrace the truth of who we are as having equality with the Creator God, and we remain that way until we embrace that, we will vacillate back and forth. We will continue to take on more anxiety. We will continue to have a huge mental health issue, huge psychological issues. We will continue to have a problem with identity. We will continue to have an authority problem. We will continue to see the world suffer as we see it suffering. Or we'll continue to suffer ourselves if we don't embrace the truth. And so there you have it. And so I'm going to read the first paragraph, And then I'm a detour over because this is probably going to be two parts. I'm sorry, but I can't skip through this part. This is so vital, and I can't rush through this part because it's so important. We got to get this. So it says sickness is a defense against the truth. So it says that sickness in and of itself, which is a what is an illusion, becomes a defense or a fence. We build up what? A block. We build up a veil around sickness so that we cannot see the truth. It said it defends. It's a defense against the truth. It will not allow sickness is a temporary fence that we build, an illusionary fence that we build to keep the truth out of our awareness. And if we keep the truth out of our awareness, that means that we have allowed in that which is what? False. And so we are self-deceived. Jesus said in many cases, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Meaning what? God is consistent. Whatever a man believes in, that's what the man will experience. That's what he's saying. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he reap. He's saying what a man believes in his heart, that shall he reap. What he believe himself to be. Who do you say that you are? Do you say that you have equality with God? Do you say that you are the very creation of God? Do you say that you and God are one? Do you say that when you've seen, to see yourself is to see God, or to see God is to see yourself, that you're impregnable, that you're inseparable, that you're eternal, that there's no beginning, no end, that you are what God is? Is your response to who do you say that you are? Or do you say, is your response to who do you say God is? It's Adam's response. You remember Adam's response to when God asked him, Adam, where are you? Adam said, well, I'm afraid. I'm separate. I'm fearful. Where did Adam get that idea from? He got that idea. He got that tiny mad idea. He got that tiny mad idea in a dream because it's not in reality. He got that tiny mad idea falling into an illusionary state or dreamlike state, wandering and imaginings, hallucinations of what would it be like to be separate from God. Adam went prodigal. He went on a journey to a far country that doesn't exist. And we all went with him. And Jesus came what? He came to what? Go where we thought we were. And remind us that what? It is impossible. And all the things that we dreamed up are impossible, like death and sickness and disease and pain and suffering and fear and all of that. So his whole life was about what? The way, the truth, and the life. To bring us to the remembrance of our reality. That's all it was. Simple as that. But then we took his life and built a whole religion around it based on what? Sacrifices. And lies about what? Death and requirements. And we're still doing it. But that's okay. The light has come. Jesus said in the fullness of time, that the mystery would be revealed. That was what? Hidden in time past. What was hid? It was a fence. Humanity had put a fence around the truth. He says, now been revealed. It's now been made manifest. And you are that what? You are that manifestation of that truth. You are the substance and the evidence of the light that you are. And what did he say? What did Jesus say through Paul? He said, what Christ is you, or Christ as you, that is the hope of glory. That was a mystery. That was what? was hidden or veiled from man's thinking by man's own acceptance of the lie. And Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, of the life. I'm come to show you what reality is. And you are part of that. And that there is no death. There is no sin. There is no guilt. There is no judgment. These are all things that we added. Because we still don't believe. We still believe that we did something wrong and we need to pay a penance. We're trying to offer something to a creator that needs nothing. We're still trying to make the lie the truth. But all that's running this course. So Jesus sent us this course. So I'll take this course. So these are things you gotta have to learn. You don't get to determine what the curriculum is. But you do get to determine when you decide to take it, when you decide to learn it. But none of us escape learning. None of us escape salvation. None of us escape waking up to the reality or the guarantee or the reality of who we are. It's a guarantee by God. It's called salvation. God's guarantee that we all will one day wake up to the reality. He guarantees it. So you're not doomed to hell. You're not doomed to fail. You're not doomed to anything. You remain as God created you. As His one creation, as His one love. You are the beloved. And you can't change it. You can't do anything to change that. You can only dream of being without it. But you can't really change it. You are impregnable. You are unalterable. All of you. All of us. Don't care how thick the plot gets, how dramatic this world becomes. It's only a dream. It's like, the song that was made years ago. I can't remember who made the song. It was called Runaway Child. Runaway Child, Running Wild. Who was that? Isaac Hayes? Runaway Child, Running Wild. Let me see if I can get it. Doom, 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 doom. Runaway child, running wild. You better come back home where you belong, belong, belong. So no matter how thick the plot gets that the child has run away from home, no matter how, he said, the runaway child, running wild. You better come back home where you belong. Well, I am here to say today that we have come back home where we have never left, where God would have us be. You know what? That's in the last chapter. I know I'm kind of freestyling today, but that's okay. We have all eternity to get this. Where is it at? Wow, I can't find it, but it talks about that we are home with God where He would have us be. Oh, here it is. It's right here. It says, Thy will be done, O God. This is like the last It's like the last few lines in the text. It says, "Thy will be done, complete and perfectly, and all creation recognizes you." This is the finality of what we're going through here, where we'll come to the conclusion that the will of God is done. Notice now, is done, meaning that not will be done. The will of God is done. It's already done. It's a complete, a finished work. Jesus said, "It is finished," meaning the will of God is done. So there is no other will. Everything outside of the will of God is just a dream, an illusion, an experience to be had if you so desire. That it won't make you happy, but you can have it. God's not threatened by you falling asleep and dreaming of separation. He's not. Truth is not. Why? Because it's just a dream. It says, "Thy will is done, complete and perfectly." Notice now, complete. When something is complete, what? There's nothing to be added. God created you and I in completion and perfectly and in perfection. So God already knows that you are complete and you are whole. You just need to know that. I just need to know that. Meaning nothing missing, nothing broken. Jesus said it this way: there's nothing can be added to your statue. Why? There's something complete. It's perfect. There's nothing to be added. It needs nothing. God needs nothing. You need nothing. God needs nothing from you, and you need nothing from God. Why? You're all the same. It says so. "Thy will be done, complete and perfectly, and all creation recognizes you." See, this is what seems to be still apart from reality. That all creation recognizes you, and that's true. In the dreams, when you're laying down in bed at night and you're dreaming, you're not recognizing reality. You're recognizing the content of a dream, which is not true. And so, in the finality of what we have embarked on here, this is where we are, even now. Complete and perfectly, and all creation recognizes you. That we all recognize what when you wake up to the truth of who you are, sir, ma'am. Really, in reality, all humanity wakes up. Because there's only one of us. Though there may appear to be others, but still in the dream, still stuck in the dream. But in reality, when you wake up, all humanity wakes up. See, it only takes one. It only takes the one. And so it says, all creation recognizes the truth and knows the Creator as the only source it has. When we have, in the finality, we all come to know the one source that there is. So all of the folly, all of the billions of years of the man-made dream of separation, it was over before it started. But surely in this finality, is certainly what it has dissipated. We have brought the illusions to the truth, and the light has what consumed the darkness. This is your state now. This is our state of being now. It says, clear in your it says clear in God's likeness, clear in the Creator's likeness, does the light shine forth from everything that lives. Clarity, see? Complete clarity. And the light shines forth. The light shines forth now. That's what he meant when he said, what? You are the light of the world. The world can't see your light when you have what? Hidden the light. Or you have what? Built a fence around the light. So in your defenselessness, the light shines forth from all and from everything that lives and moves. And it lives and moves and it has its being in the light. Again, Paul picked it up through Revelation and says, in you we live, in you we move, and in you what? We have our being. And this is where I was trying to get to. It says, for we have reached where all of us are one. See, we're having this grand experience now of oneness. The dream of separation has run its course. But we have reached where all of us are one, which has always been that way. And we are what? We are home. See, oneness is our home. The body is not your home. It is in the reality of our oneness with our Creator. That is our home. That's why I've said on many occasions, we are the holy home. That means the perfect, complete home of God. You are not your body, but your timeless and formless self that you share with God. So we are the holy home of God. So it says, for we have reached where all of us are one. The one mind, the one life, the one love, the one being that we all share. We have all the fences have been what? Dissolved. There's no more defense. There are no more blocks to the awareness that what? Love is the only thing that is present. Yes. Therein lies our peace in this understanding. It says, and we are at home where God would have us be and where we never left. We are at home where God would have us be. And where God would have you be, that's where you be. Jesus said it this way, where I am, what? There you shall be also. And where was he talking about? This place of oneness. I and you and me, we are one. And so when you place the world, when you bring the world to this truth, to this reality I just read, when you bring it to the altar of this reality that I read, when you bring all of the troubles of this world, all of the hurt and pain and heartache of this world, all of the disappointment, when you bring it to this truth, when you bring that darkness to the light, guess what happens? The light consumes the darkness. Why? Because the darkness was only an illusion. It wasn't real. All is well, and we are at home where our Creator will only have us be. No more prodigal. No more going on journeys of separation. No more, trying to make our way back there to a place we never left. We just simply wake up. Wake up from the politics, wake up from the religion, wake up from the society, wake up from the culture. We wake up from, all of the insane ways we have tried to find peace. And realize that we are peace, we are love, we are happiness. So this is a course in healing. And our goal here is to remove the blocks, to remove the fence to the awareness of love's presence. You remember on many encounters that's written in the Bible, where Jesus would encounter those that were sick or lame or blind or under distress or duress, with different ailments. And he would ultimately say, what? Take up your bed and walk. Or what what he was saying is what? Take up your fence. Quit defending. Quit resisting the truth of who you are and go ahead and walk. There's really nothing holding you back but these fences. There's nothing holding you back but these blocks that you have built to the awareness of love present. So he said, take it up and then you can walk. And that has meaning even today. All of the blocks, all of the fences, all of the falsity that we have engaged in to try to find the way, mainly through religion. He said that in and of itself has become a fence or a defense against the truth. This whole organized religious community. And I'm not fighting it. I'm not, listen, I have nothing against that. I share in that because that's where people are. But I don't promote the institution. I promote what? I promote the cause for our oneness and our unity and our fellowship and our communion. I put no credence in the institution. It's a part of the problem. I'm not against it. I'm just for the truth. I'm for light and love only. So anything that separates us, I'm not, I'm not against it. I'm just not for it. I'm for love. I'm for oneness. I'm not for separation. I'm for oneness. And so I don't have to defend it. I don't have to fight against it. I just walk in love. I just look and wait and judge not. Because I know what? I know the truth is true always. And I just embrace the truth and love everyone. And stand as a light and a beacon for love and oneness and truth. Stand as a healer of God to bring all of my family into the awareness of their true reality. And so it says, no one can heal unless he understands what purpose sickness seems to serve. Healing comes at the end of an understanding of what the purpose that sickness serves. For then one can understand as well its purpose has no meaning. That there's no true meaning in sickness. There's no benefit in it at all. It is not for truth. It is what? It's a defense against the truth. It's a meaningless concept, but we have made it a meaningful concept. How much energy goes into, how much effort goes into, how much resource goes into trying to heal what sickness in this world. So sickness has become what? A huge part of what? This false world. And here it says, no one can really heal unless they understand the purpose of sickness and what it serves. And here then it says, it goes on to say that its purpose has no meaning. It's a meaningless concept. It says, being without a cause. Sickness has no cause. Sickness has no cause. It says, being causeless and without a meaningful intent of any kind. It's not meaningful. It's not helpful. The idea of sickness is not helpful. It's not meaningful. It says being causeless and without a meaning, intent of any kind. Sickness cannot be at all because it's meaningless and it's causeless. So it's an illusion. It is something that we make up. It's not part of reality. And we make it up in our minds. It's all a part of the vulnerability that we open ourselves up to when we don't embrace the truth. When you don't embrace the truth, you make yourself available to what? The error. And the error is what we begin to experience as a substitute to the truth. I know we're going a little deep here, but we need to. Jesus says, "What? Let's cast out into the deep for a catch." It's time for us to get out of the shallow waters of error and move out into the what? The ocean of love, where there is what? There is no what? There is no end. There's nothing but endless love. He said, when this is seen, when what is seen? When we see the fact of the meaninglessness and the causelessness of sickness. And when we see the reality that sickness is an illusion, it is a defense against the truth. It says, when we see this, healing is automatic. Oh my God, did you hear that? Healing is automatic. So that's why it starts out by saying no one can heal unless they understand the purpose of sickness, or the purpose that sickness seems to serve. And then it goes on to say it serves no meaningful or causeless purpose. It doesn't exist. And when we come to the reality that it does not exist, it was something that we made up in our mind. He says healing is what? Automatic. And we're not talking about healing in the body. We're talking about healing of the mind. It's automatic. And when the mind is healed, when the mind is full of light, he said the whole body is full of light. The body what? Does what it's supposed to do. And become a healthy what? Serviceable. It becomes a what? A healthy, serviceable, it becomes a healthy, serviceable instrument. A communication device is what the Course says. And so there's no focus on the body. Body is neutral. The body is a grand servant to a healed mind. To an unhealed mind, the body becomes a place of attack. It becomes the effect of an unhealed mind. So it says healing becomes automatic. Now just think, if all humanity operated under this idea, there would be no need for what? A medical community. There would be no need for a medical community. Why? All humanity what? Will walk in health, will heal themselves. By what? By embracing the truth in the mind. It says it dispels, it says this reality dispels this meaningless illusion. Sickness is a meaningless illusion. By the same approach that carries all of them to truth. So when we carry illusions to the truth, we don't carry truth to the illusion. We carry the illusion to the truth. And ask truth, what do you say about this illusion? The illusion is always what? Is always. The illusion is always consumed by the truth, dispelled by the truth. When you come into the awareness, the consciousness of your true identity with God, your oneness with the Father, of your innocence, of your completeness, of your perfection, of your wholeness, of your changelessness, of the fact that you cannot be altered from your original state of creation, which God created you formless and timeless. When you embrace that reality, it says, and merely leave them there to disappear. All this fantasy, all this fantastic dreaming and wild imagining that we're doing, all this hallucination that we've been doing throughout all the history would disappear into the nothingness that it is. Sickness would disappear into the nothingness that it is, and it would, along with every other illusion. And look, that's just the first paragraph here in Workbook Lesson 136. And there are 20 paragraphs. So what are we going to do with this subject about sickness? And the reason I'm going to spend time here, because what? We need to. Most of us, all of us have experienced what? The illusion of sickness. The belief that the body is malfunctioning, the belief that our body is, needs what? Healing. Our body needs defense. And all of the ideas that, separation brings with that. But we're going to look at this from a different light. We're going to look at this from the light that it says what? When this is seen, when something is seen, it says when this is seen, what? When the truth is seen, it says healing is what? Automatic. We're going to look at this from that perspective. Healing is what? Automatic. Who don't want to what? Experience the automation of healing? Tell me one person. But what we would do with it would try to what? Take it and bottle it up and sell it. No, I'm here to share it freely. Freely I've received it. Freely I'm sharing it. And the healing it's talking about here is not the healing of the body, but it's talking about what? The healing of the mind. And so as we make the distinction here, and it has to be made between the body and the mind and the roles that they play, the function, the proper functioning of them. There's a section on the clarification of terms on page 79 in the back of the Course in Miracle book on the clarification of terms. And this helps us to clarify what the awareness of what we should be understanding when it talks about the mind. Because our understanding of the mind is that the mind is part of the body, and the mind and the body are one entity, and that's not true. But if you look on page 79 on the clarification of terms, it defines what mind is, and it's somewhat shares that the mind and the spirit, or the mind, become a portal for the spirit, or that there's the portal by which the spirit communicates. So let's just read a few things here, and then we're going to close it out. It says the term mind, when we see the term mind is used to represent, it says it represents the activating agent of the spirit. So here, mind is described as an activating agent of spirit. It's what sedates your spirit, or it what connects you to spirit, or it becomes the portal by which what spirit reveals that spirit, what that spirit or the light reveals itself in the mind, not in the body. It says that the term mind is used to represent an activating agent, and you are not an activating agent. That means you're not a mind. That means we have what? We have access to the one mind. We all have access to the mind, but we're not a mind. The mind is just an activating agent of spirit, supplying the spirit with creative energy. It says, when the term is capitalized, when the term mind is capitalized with a capital M, it refers to God or to Christ. Okay? The mind of God or the mind of Christ. Spirit, capital S, spirit, or when it talks about capital S, spirit, it's talking about our reality or the truth. It talks about God as spirit. We are spirit. Okay? Spirit denotes our true self, the real you. It says spirit is the thought of God. So spirit or God is a thought or a reality. It says, so spirit is the thought of God, which God created like himself. So God and his thoughts are one. They're the same, one and the same. What a man thinketh, so is he. What God thinketh, so is he. What do you think? So are you. Momentarily. Because if what you're thinking is not the thought of God, it's not you. It's only temporary idea or belief in separation. But God and his thoughts are one. So what did God think about himself? That's what he thinks about you. So we have to find out what God thinks about himself. So it says all the thoughts of God, the spirit. It says spirit is the thought of God, which he created like himself. We are a thought of God. It says the unified spirit is God's one creation, which he calls Christ. That's what I've been saying earlier. We misuse the word Christ. We denote and associate the word Christ with one man's life, Jesus. But Christ is a all-encompassing word that denotes what God created, which is humanity, which is his son, which is his daughter, which is what it denotes Christ. It's denoted at Christ. So when the word Christ is used, it's talking about all of us, not one of us, all of us. It says in this world, because the mind is split, because there's a belief in separation, right? So the mind splits. He said, in this world, in this world of time and form, in this world of illusion, it says the mind is split. So the mind is split, not in reality, but in a dream world. So because we find ourselves in this dream world, we find ourselves having access to the mind of God as well as to the mind of the ego. All of us have access to both minds. The small M mind, egos, the big M mind of God, right? But that is that's an idea. It's not reality, because in reality there is no split mind. In reality, nothing has changed. But because we find ourselves caught in this web of a dream, and in this, so it says in this world of separation, because the mind is split, it says God's creations, which is us, appear to be separate. We appear to be separate in separate bodies. See, we appear to be separate, with separate minds and separate bodies. And notice now, it says, nor do their minds seem to be joined. So our minds seem separate, and it certainly seems that our bodies are separate. That's only in a world of illusion. It's not the real world where we are, okay? So are you getting this? This is really important information that will help you to just relax, man, into the reality of who you are. They don't teach this in school. They don't teach this in college, grade school, Bible school. They don't teach this right here. Jesus had to create his own course to teach this truth, to bring this truth to us. Grace and peace has been multiplied to us through the knowledge. And one of those courses is the Course in Miracles. One of those, and he said there's thousands upon thousands of resources that he's gotten this truth in the earth for us to come to know. But in most cases, we reject those resources. We say, oh, it's not in this one book, so it's not the truth. Okay, all right. Let's keep going. It says, in this world, because the mind is split, the sons or the creations of God appear to be separate in separate bodies, nor do their minds seem to be joined in this illusionary state. So, this is an illusionary state. See, the concept of an individual mind seems to be meaningful. See, we think we got our own mind. I made up my mind. It's called the ego. It said, it is therefore described as in the course as if it has two parts. So the mind is described in the course as though it has two parts because it's split. The spirit in one part and what the ego in the other. That's the split mind, seemingly split mind. It's not a reality. It only happens in dreams. So your individuality, your individual self, your ego self has come out of this idea of separation again, of a split mind. But in reality, the mind is not split. It's just that we have embraced that concept and made it, we have embraced that unreality and have been taught it so strongly that we have made it our reality. We have made it the truth, and it's not the truth. It says spirit or God's thoughts is the part that is still in contact with the Creator through the one Spirit called the one whole or the Holy Spirit. It is the part that is in contact with God. It says, who abides in this part, but sees the other part as well. And so it says that the spirit that is in touch with God not only knows that it's in touch with God, but it sees the other part, the ego part. It says it sees the other part as well. The term soul is not used except in direct biblical quotes because of its highly controversial nature. So we don't, in the course, you won't see the word soul used because soul denotes individuality. Soul denotes, that it actually supports the concept of an individual self or a split mind. So so you will only see the word soul used in the Course in Miracles as it might use it because it's quoting a scripture. Okay. So it says, it would, however, be an equivalent to the spirit. The soul is equivalent to the small s spirit, the split spirit that is split between the ego and the the ego and the spirit. And so it says, with the understanding that being of God, it is eternal and will never be and was never born. And so the Course calls that our place of decision or the decision-making mind, where we have to make a decision for the truth or make a decision for the illusion or the ego. So in that decision-making mind, that's where we are. That's where all of the memory of God is. And that's the seat of where we make our decisions. And so it's like this duality that's sitting there and say, what are you going to decide? Who are you going to listen to? Right? Those are the voices we hear in the dream, because in reality, none of this is taking place. All is well. It says the other part of the mind is entirely illusory, and makes only illusions. That's the ego side of us. That's the side of us that believe in separation. It says it's totally illusory. It says spirit, which is our God self, or the Holy Spirit, which is our God self, which is truth. It says spirit retains the potential for creating, but its will, which is God's, seem to be imprisoned while the mind is not unified. And so there's a fence built up around this belief in a split mind to keep us from creating like we could be, just like our Father, because we built this defense or this fence around this idea of separation or duality, and it keeps us from creating only like God, because it gives the appearance that we have a choice, and we see in most cases that this world is built on the choice of the ego idea or the ego thought of separation. Therefore, the world is the way it is, the mess that it is. Therefore, we haven't created a world that is perfect, but a world that is helter skelter. It says, but you know now where this is coming from. It says, it would, however, be an equivalent to spirit. No, let me get over here. It says, it says, spirit retains the potential for creating, just like its creator, but its will, but the will of the spirit, which is God's will or the will of God, seems to be imprisoned. Notice now, it's not imprisoned, but it seems to be that way, while the mind is not unified, while there's a belief in separation. It says creation continues unabated or unaffected because it is the will of God. So the will of God continues, even though it seems like there's another will that is being pursued. And it's called illusions. It's called the world we made. It's called on earth. He said, this will is always unified. God is always one. And therefore has no meaning in this world. The oneness of God has no meaning in this world. The world rejects the oneness of God. It says it has no opposite and it has no degree. The will of God has no opposite and it has no degrees. It has no levels, like we like to say, this level, move up to the next level. That's all a worldly concept. There's only one level, and that's unification. But in the world of separation, we calls it levels, up level, move to the next level. God's going to take us to the next level. All that's a egoic duality concept that we embrace. And we play along with it, God uses it to finally open us completely up to realize that there's only one. He uses everything. It says the mind can be wrong, or the mind, the little s mind, the decision-making mind, can be wrong or right, depending on the voice to which it listens. Is it listening to the voice of the spirit, or is it listening to the voice of the ego? So that decision-making mind can be wrong or right. It says right-mindedness. Okay, right-mindedness listens to the Holy Spirit, forgives the world, and through Christ's vision sees the real world in its place. That's what right-mindedness is. When you are in your right mind, you know how people say, well, they're not in their right mind. Majority of humanity is not in their right mind. He said, but when we engage in right-mindedness, we listen to the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Spirit represents our own very own one self spirit that we share with God. We listen to the shared spirit of God. It says when we're in our right-mindedness, we listen to the shared spirit that God is and that we are. And it says, and we forgive the world. In other words, we give up our perception of the world as being reality, and we embrace the reality of the one world, or the one heaven, or the one reality that God is. And so we forgive the world its illusions. We don't hold the illusions against the world. So we're not holding grievances and resentments. We drop everything. We drop every contention, every conflict. We drop it when we see this truth. When we're in right-mindedness, we hold no one hostage. When we see and through right-mindedness, we let everything go. We let politics, we let religion, we let culture, society, we let them have their course. We let it to be what it is. We don't fight against it. We don't fight against it. We don't hold judgments against it. We know that it's only illusion. So why would you take an illusion and make it real? we just we just laugh. We just put a little smirk on our face and let it be what it is. And we just continue to be in the light. That's what right-mindedness is. It says in right-mindedness, we listen to the one shared spirit that we are, and we forgive the world. And through this vision, through God's vision, through Christ's vision, we see the real world in its place. What is the real world? The real you. We see our oneness with God. We don't see all. We look right through all of this division and separation. We look all through this sickness and disease and terror and horror. We look through all of the atrocities. We look right straight through, mass shootings. We look straight through all the sickness and the death and the wars and the fighting and all the weather destruction and all the destruction that's in the world. We look through all of that when we are in our right mind. And we forgive the world. We don't judge it. Why would you judge an illusion? We look through it. We look through the dream. It's like at the movie. You enjoy the movie, but when the movie's over, you get up and walk out. You don't act as though the movie continues. Likewise, when we know that the world is only running its illusionary course. Eventually it comes to an end. We don't they have to fight against it or defend against it or build fences against it or hold it responsible or judge it or police it. No. We don't make the error real. We just put a little smirk on our face and we move on. It says, this is the final vision. This is the perception that we are, that we continue to expand in our consciousness and our awareness by going through this course. This is the final vision. The last perception. Notice now, because this is happening in the world of perception. It's not even happening in the world. This is the final position. So we only need vision in the world of perception. We need Christ, but we need God's perspective, God's vision. Okay, and so this is the final vision, the last perception, the condition in which God takes the final step himself. This is what we can do, and this is what we should do, get to this place. So God can make the final step. What is that final step? Hear time and illusions in all together. And God makes the final step. And we realize that we are at home where God would have us be. See? He says, on the other hand, wrong-mindedness listens to the ego, and we know about that, and makes illusion, and we know about that. We make a life. We make a world. It said, and perceiving sin, we make sin. And justifying anger, we justify being angry. And seeing guilt, we see guilt all over the place. And diseases and death are as real. That's what the wrong mind will take you to the conclusion, that death is real. It says both this world and the real world are illusions, because right-mindedness merely overlooks or forgives what never happened. In dreams, it never happens. You're dreaming dreams at night. They never happened. So we forgive the dream and we forgive the dreamer. They never happened. Right-mindedness forgives all of that. Let it go. It disappears. It says, therefore, it is not the one-mindedness. Therefore, it is not the one-mindedness of the Christ mind whose will is one with God's. You getting this? That there is but the one mind, and it's the one mind that we all share. And this one mind is the will of God. That's the reality. That's the reality of you. That's the reality of all humanity. That we are of the one mind. And that one mind is the will of God. And all else is just what? Illusions that will eventually, or has already what? As you wake up, they disappear into what? Into nothingness. Even time is an illusion. It says, so in this world, the only remaining freedom is the freedom of choice. What will you choose? Right mindedness or wrong mindedness? What will you choose? That's the only what? That is the only freedom that you have, the freedom of choice. Choose you this day who you will serve, right mindedness or wrong mindedness. Will you serve the ego or will you serve your true reality? Which do you choose? We're choosing every day and in every moment. And we know our choices. We know the choices that we choose. We see the effects of our choices. Are we in guilt? Are we in anxiety? Are we in fear? Are we afraid? Are we building fences? Are we planning for the future? Are we believing that there is not enough, that we're not supported? Are we still believing in sacrifice? Do we need to give God something? We need to sacrifice something. Do we need to, do we need, we need to do this, we need to do that. All this that what creates sacrifice, that creates what? Anxiety and confusion, to which eventually we attack our bodies or we attack other bodies. When we are doing that, when that is the effect, then we know that what? We have chosen for wrong-mindedness. We have what? We have what? Become afraid of love and build a fence or a defense. It's called a sick mind. And it says that what? Sickness is a defense against the truth. It's because what? We are rejecting the reality of who we are. It says, in this world, the only remaining freedom is our choice. Always between two choices or two voices. See, there's only two choices and there's two voices. The voice that speaks for God or the voice that speaks for the ego. Two choices. The choice of what? The choice of right-mindedness or wrong-mindedness. It says, our will is not involved in perception at any level. Our will is not involved in perception at any level. It said, and has nothing to do with choice. Our will has nothing to do with our choices. It says consciousness, or awareness, what we are conscious of and what we are aware of is the receptive mechanism. That's why you continue to hear me say what? It's our consciousness or Christ consciousness. It's our awareness of Christ awareness. Expanded consciousness, expanded awareness. It's our making ourselves available to be taught by God. To have our awareness and our consciousness expanded beyond what we have known. That's why if you're still learning what you've always learned, you're not conscious. You're not aware. You have limited consciousness and limited awareness, and you cannot live beyond your awareness or your consciousness. There has to be an expansion. You always have to be in a growth mode, an open mode, an openness to allow the spirit to show you, to expand you, to bring you to an awareness. It says consciousness is the receptive mechanism, not will. It says receiving messages from above. or below. It is the consciousness. It's our awareness. It's our conscious. It's our godliness. It says from the Holy Spirit or from the ego. It said this is what it says. It says our will has nothing to do with choice, but our awareness. So are you in a place of expanded awareness? Are you in a place of expanded consciousness? Are you expanding? Are you open? Are you saying, God, teach me? God, I need to know. I want to know. I want to be taught. I want to be expanded. Is that your heart's desire? Or are you just holding on to the fences that you built? That you don't understand any more than you understood 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago? Are you still in the elementary stage? That's why we have developed this platform, this nonprofit organization called Truly Foundation, that we may share advanced spirituality, expanded spirituality, expanded consciousness, expanded awareness. Why? Because it is in that expanded awareness that we begin to choose right-mindedly. We begin to embrace right-mindedly. It's in our growth. It's in our expansion. So if you're not growing, if you're not expanding, that means you are contracting. And in contraction, that means that the mind is not healed. The mind is sick. And in that mode, then the body is attacked. And reflects the fact that we are not expanding. We're not expanded in our consciousness, that we don't have Christ's vision, that we're still holding grievances and resentments, that we have an elementary understanding that is not enough for the moment. It's not enough. And so we need to play catch up. That's why, going through the course, going through the workbook lessons, it's such a great tool to help us in this process of expanded consciousness or awareness. So, and it's in our consciousness awareness that we either we get messages from above or below, from the ego or from the Holy Spirit. It says consciousness has levels and awareness can shift quite dramatically, but it cannot transcend the perceptual realm. It says at its highest, it becomes aware of the real world. There is no awareness or consciousness of the real world without expanding the consciousness, expanding the awareness, without receiving revelation from on high. It says, and can be trained to do so increasingly. And that's what we're doing. We're training the mind. It says, yet the very fact that it has levels and can be trained demonstrate that it cannot reach knowledge or knowing. So the mind that believe that it is operating from a split position, one part being ego, the other part being receiving its messages from the spirit, so that we can become consciously aware of the truth. And it takes us to that point to where we move from even consciousness and awareness to the direct experience of it. It's called love. When there's nothing but love. There's no thoughts, there's no levels, there's no right-mindedness, no wrong-mindedness, no world. It merely is. Oh! And the runaway child that was running wild has come back home where it has never left. Thank you so much. This is part one. I have to name it part one of lesson 136. That's what it is. Part one. That means there's a part two. And we'll start part two on tomorrow. Thank you so much. We love you. Have a great day. Peace and right mindedness.